pull back while I'm doing this so everybody knows it's me.
Yeah.
This is all real. Like, the dude is amazing.
He also insisted on having a separate suit actor, so his fighting style as his normal self would be different than as V3. And he also did a bunch of other Ishinomori heroes, plus a few, one
he was
Super Sentai.
Power Ranger and Go Ranger.
Yeah, no, he was in 2 Super Sentais. He was Power Ranger and Go Ranger, and he was big one.
Oh, right.
And then he was also
one more person.
Zubats.
Zubat, right.
Zubats.
Yeah.
Which is also fully subbed too.
Is it really?
Yeah.
I have to watch that now.
Yeah.
It's exciting.
But
Okay.
the guy's a great actor.
Yes.
Also
I
crazy.
adore him.
So watch V3 if you get a chance.
X. Unfortunately, there are basically no subs for this at the moment. That
Well,
are
he's
That's
yeah.
Starfish Handler they're from now.
Yeah.
It is.
Starfish
What else is there of
It's Genghis Condor.
It's the best.
And Adi Capone.
You know what? That episode for Cat Stranger.
That doesn't help us too much. I took French and French, and that's it.
If I had it,
Is there something in French?
It's a pretty amazing series.
There's apparently subs of this in French.
And more Showa series keep getting subs, so I hope.
Oh, I'm sure it'll come up.
Eventually.
Its time will come.
Apparently it's easier to translate than Japanese.
Not for me, it isn't.
Someone on Christmas posted on the Tumblr blog that there's something the entire series, and they posted the first episode.
Okay.
And we haven't heard a word since.
Oh.
Such is the fate of every new sub these days.
So something just got them pretty hard.
Okay, well, X, I have seen the first episode. It's a pretty cool show. X is an underwater themed Kamen Rider, but doesn't really use it that much.
They did
They
stuff.
used up all
Yeah.
their budget on
V3 loved having its water fights, but yes.
And this is a show where the main villains are an organization called the Government of Darkness, or God for short, because it wasn't loaded enough. And yeah, it
The
has
first
this.
half of the series, you had monsters themed off of famous personalities from history.
Well, that was the second.
Yeah, that was the second half.
Second half,
Yeah, the second
right.
half is like Starfish Hitler
Thank you.
and Capone. And the first half is like pre-Jobs.
And the glorious thing with Starfish Hitler is Hitora is the word for in Japanese for starfish, so it's Hitora.
I bet they thought they were clever.
Yes.
Yeah,
And
I
then
mean,
Ash Capone was
Adi
really
Capone.
Capone, yeah.
My favorite thing about Ed Capone, though, is he has the word Chicago across his jacket.
Yeah.
What a big picture of Michigan.
Yeah, because Japan is very familiar that Chicago is on Lake Michigan. Like, there's a video game called Michigan that's supposed to be set in Chicago, but Michigan!
Japan's knowledge of American geography is sometimes a little.
Or geography of any other place in the world.
I can't blame it
There's
because
Texas and Chicago and California and Hawaii and everything else.
And New York.
Oh, and New York.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's about what we've got for X. So let's go to a show that we have seen all the way through and love a great, great deal. Amazon is a good favorite to have.
Duh.
It is a shorter series.
Yeah, it's only 26.
Brutal.
It's the shortest
So
one.
brutal.
I believe so, yes.
And it's thanks to how bad some of it was that we actually got Super Sentai in the first place.
Well,
No,
it's not so much bad as it got really, really ringed with editorial mandates and changes due to.
They scared the children.
You said this.
Don't scare the children
Do
because
this right
then
here.
the moms.
That's why you don't let the creator of this franchise let him do what he wants.
Yeah.
Only reason why.
Yeah, so again, I want to mention that Ishinomori, he is a very fascinating individual. In each series, he did do a separate manga, frequently at the same time where the series was running, and often the manga had nothing to do with the actual TV show, aside from him doing the designs and base concept. So this one was interesting because it was a bit closer to his base concept at the start, which means it was very, very gory. Hilarious buckets of multicolored blood gory,
I love it.
but Amazon, he had claws and teeth.
teeth.
Because he was the savage rider. He was very much a Tarzan trope.
Yeah, he was a Japanese boy who was in a plane crash over the Amazon and therefore was raised by
Lost Incan civilization.
Lost Incan civilization, and using magic science, they turned him into a cyborg. And
With the geeky bracelets.
And his best friend's a 10-year-old boy.
That's the best part about
And
the
a
entire
mole.
series.
Yep.
And then
Yes.
the-
And the first few episodes has something I can only describe as death by bubbles.
Well, the first one has like Death by Soap Bubbles.
Oh wait, no, it's
Oh,
like this. There we go.
Yeah, you put your hands.
So you put your hands, you lace your fingers, and then you bring it up.
yes, there we
your
go.
pinkies up and
There
your
we
thumbs
go.
together. That is the Amazon symbol of friendship.
Yes.
The cutest thing.
For the first half of the series, he did not know
Or
Japanese,
Japanese.
excuse me. He had no opportunity to learn it, obviously, so he had a major language barrier. Also, his main contact in Japan, who is supposed to come visit with his arch nemesis, who has the sibling part of his bracelets, and who is trying to take over / eat all of humanity / we're not sure. He was
Oh
kind of
God,
a
that
terrifying
Jamaican.
blood god.
Oh god, the old school Jamaican was horrid.
Yeah.
It's amazing. It's one of my favorite designs.
I didn't know.
Wasn't it like, yeah, like a 5-faced guy, right?
He was
was
he
the
had
big-
10
he has
faces.
10 faces.
Oh, 10 faces, that's right.
Yeah, it was 10 faced.
Yeah, that was cool.
And they were literally faces, like
Yeah.
these
In this
dead
big,
people's
pink,
faces
amorphous
in-
space.
Yeah, like
No.
after seeing that, the decade Jumenki kind of makes me sad.
No, what's weird is
I actually
that
liked it after seeing that old one. I'm like, this is weird.
the first couple episodes, like the faces weren't like painted red or anything, and then later they're just like, oh, we should paint them red.
Well, I also
Actually,
think
there's
part of it
a
is
part
it,
They actually explain that because it's how much blood have they had recently.
Oh
my
It's
God.
very much
Go
see
white.
People
clever.
getting exsanguinated to feed the blood god.
Oh,
It's-
okay.
Yeah.
I like it.
I love this show.
Yeah, so Amazon is
Right.
essentially
Right?
adopted by the son of the scientist who ends up being his major contact, his 10-year-old best friend, because the scientist that he was going to see died, obviously.
was murdered because that's what.
The opening kaijin got kills. It's amazing.
Yeah.
But lots of rather different themes that were played
Yeah.
with in this. We had magic instead of just science, and there was a lot of society versus individuality, which is a very important theme in Japan.
and what's interesting is that this focused more on the virtue of individuality than,
It did.
because it was very much showing how society could not accept Amazon because he was so different and how wrong that is.
He didn't fit into Japanese society, and so he was ostracized, even chased by the police occasionally.
And despite that, he was still a hero. Also, the wisdom of children and the wisdom of people who will actually trust their senses.
And the stupidity of adults.
And the stupidity of adults.
Yeah.
Like the
The
kids
adults
in
in the show dumb.
there's a monster eating people in the gymnasium. And the adults are like, no, there couldn't possibly be a monster eating people in the gymnasium. Turns out there's a monster eating people.
Oh god, I'm being late in the gymnasium.
Yep. But very much showing children and people without preconceptions or people who are open-minded as being, the positive characters, while the jadedness of adults and people who let go of their imagination. So, starting to sound a lot like Kamen Rider Guy.
Or Computer.
Yeah, it's Future.
Yeah.
So, it has a great lead actor. This guy does amazing things with only having about 10 words to work with in the first 12 episodes, and also handling the editorial mandates.
Also managing to run around half naked with no shoes. He just had a loincloth to start out with. Halfway through the series, because winter was coming, they swapped him to hot pants and a vest and sandals. Last episode he got to wear a full suit though.
Yeah.
But yeah, lead actor is great. The choreography is completely different from anything you will see in the rest of the franchise, and it is really amazing stuff. Like, it's brutal, just biting and clawing,
And
and
then halfway through it's not as brutal, but still very good.
yeah, and like Amazon, like out of suit, is just getting cut up all over the place.
Lots of blood and out of suit stuff.
I'm trying to. I think it was episode 9. Wherever he fights the crocodile and splits its head open.
Yeah.
I was remember being really impressed that they had they were fighting in a abandoned amusement park, and they had the roller coaster go by as they were fighting, and you could see that they put the camera on the front car, and they
Yeah.
actually had Amazon's actor stand on the railway and dodge at the last second. And I thought that was impressive that if he was off by a second, he'd be dead.
Yeah, no, that's Showa Kamen Rider for you.
Showa actors did crazy things despite the fact that they knew this was a bad idea from prior experience.
But yeah, and also the Beast Mole Man is the best.
Yes, it's adorable to have a kaijin introduced as a bad guy early on, realize that, you know what, my evil organization sucks, especially since now the guy who I failed wants to drink my blood. I think I'm done with this guy.
And monsters or otherwise inhumans who decide they kind of like humanity definitely becomes a thing through the Kamen Rider.
Yep.
But the problems with the show, again, halfway through the show, Toei realized that the show was scaring children, so they toned down a lot of the violence. They made
Changed the bad guy.
Amazon, he started, walking like a normal human being. He started speaking, he
He
goes
had the
from
fastest crash course.
no Japanese at all to speaking perfect Japanese.
It's like suddenly it clicked.
I wouldn't say it was perfect. I would say he still.
It was pretty
It
good.
was
though.
simplistic.
It was simplistic, but not it was still very, very understandable and way better than anybody should if they have the ability to get to at the amount of time that it took. And the new villain organization for the second half of the series just does not hold up. They are not nearly as cool.
They were very conventional,
They were very
but
conventional.
also very inept.
Yeah, and boring. Like the
They
new.
didn't have the mountain women.
No, they didn't have the Mountain Women, and the Mountain Women
And
are
was
awesome.
not like the villains for the second half of the series.
The mooks in the first half of the series were very competent. Again, kind of like Destron. But they were all female, so they're the mountain women. And it was really fascinating to have the mountain women be absolutely awesome, and then in come their male counterparts.
And they're very incompetent.
And yeah, they're no better than shock retrievers.
Give Amazon a watch.
It's fun.
Stronger, I'll admit we haven't watched yet, despite the fact that I'm pretty sure it's fully subbed now, right?
Yeah.
It's, about 3 weeks ago, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. We've seen a few episodes of it.
Yeah. I like what I've seen of it so far, though. The main concept of the show is Shigeru Joe, who is the main character, decides to actually volunteers to join Black Satan, the villain organization. He's just like, sure, I'll become a evil cyborg monster. Just do that surgery thing on me. And so they do.
The best part about it, though, is that both Stronger and the villain live in the same hotel.
Yes.
And they pass by each other constantly, and he's like, what's he up to?
One Eye
Shit.
Titan. One Eye Titan is one of my favorite villains. Like the fact that he just he is, he spent.
He's a giant eye monster.
He's just a giant. Not only is he a giant eye monster, but he's a giant eye monster in a smoking jacket. Like what I love about him is that he's just hanging around in his human form, and then he gets a call from the rest of the people at Destron. Or at Black Satan, he picks up the phone, and when he picks up the phone to talk to the person on the other end, that's when he turns into his monster form.
His
It's
head is suddenly just an eyeball.
There was one moment where one of his minions touched his jacket. He killed the minion for touching his jacket, then took it off, grabbed another one from his closet.
Yes, that too.
That guy is so
I love One Eye Titan. He's amazing.
Oh, he's so good.
But yes, so Shigeru Joe goes in and says, yes, transform me. And at the ceremony celebrating his transformation, he goes, haha, psych, I just want the power.
Because you guys killed my best friend, and I don't appreciate that. So thank you for turning me into a Kamen Rider. I'm going to kill you guys now.
Fuck yeah.
And I'm going to break out this lady while I'm at it, because she was also turned into a bug person, and she's going to be my partner, and it's going to be awesome. And she's going to be a Kamen Rider, even though Toei doesn't consider her a Kamen Rider because they're stupid.
Although the Decade Net movies pitched the
Yes.
campaign.
And
Yes.
it's interesting because Toei frequently releases helmets of various Kamen Riders, and her helmet is included in one of the Showa sets and in the all-female Kamen Rider helmet set. So she's unofficially considered a Kamen Rider. I think they're just kind of going, no, we can't count her because they've already got so much merch numbered.
The same way Akiba Ranger is the unofficial Sentai.
Yeah.
I think with that, they were deciding when they were making it, and then now if they said, oh, she's the 8th rider, then the entirety of the legendary 7 riders would just be destroyed.
Exactly.
And then, now we gotta do all this again, so even though we don't want to, we have to say she's not a rider.
Yeah, they push themselves into it.
I think
Yeah.
when they finished Stronger, They didn't call her a rider, and then they realized we should have called her a rider sooner,
Yep.
and now we're done.
Yes, and she is far more transformed, even though you can see her legs and such, than Rider Man, who just had a cyborg arm.
That's another thing, is that I think also with her costume, it's easy to tell when they switch actors.
Yeah.
So it's, with Rider Man, you can kind of hide it, but with obviously the other ones, they're all masked. But with her, it's kind of obvious to see, okay, Toei's replacing her for this movie, this movie, this movie. So I think it would be hard for Toei to find almost identical women of the same height to constantly play the same character.
I don't know, with
I
Rider
don't
Man,
know, especially because they don't even try that hard with some of the guys.
Yeah.
The people who play Kuga,
Oh yeah.
they don't know what height he's supposed to be, and they don't care.
Well, they don't have
Or
the right
guy, like,
butts.
Yakusano is like a midget pretty much,
Tiny.
and then, you know, you've got, like, was it Seiji Takaiwa who was,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and she's like,
Takaiwa's
giant
always-
in comparison.
It's
The
hilarious
tricks they do
seeing
to try to make
Dr. Sama
Sasha
stand next to
not
Bride.
look like a midget. They're like, we're gonna shoot you so you don't look like you're.
I just love all the promotional
movie
images.
and put him aside decade, and it's like, well, you just.
No. What's even better is during like all the promotional images and stuff they've done, standing him next to Shinosuke.
I was just gonna say, it makes a
Guy's
Shinosuke as they
tiny.
get the new lock scenes.
Like I've seen
I'm
an
like,
image like from the
short.
movie where they're standing together, and it's like a waist up shot, and they're like it looks like they're at the same height. And someone on Tumblr drew the rest of the shot where Gakusano is standing on a box. Because that's the only way that would work.
Yeah.
Like every time he transforms, his height is like this, and then it just goes down to this. Like he loses his entire head. In the
Yeah.
process of transforming.
Yeah.
transformation.
The horn adds a few feet.
Yes.
Anyways.
And let's not even get into the voice actors for these movies.
Oh,
Because Forze is my favorite, and I cringe every time he speaks in the last Rider War movie because they gave him Ryutaro's voice actor, and no.
Oh, no, to make things worse, any of this old Sentai actors in Superhero Wars,
Yeah.
because it was like the Gokaiger cast just voiced everyone.
So not just the Gokaiger cast, the Gokaiger's morpher. Tomokazu Seki voiced a
Yeah,
lot
that's
of
true. He voices like everybody nowadays. He's gone from being everybody in anime to being everybody in Tokusatsu.
Yeah. Like, actually, just before we go to our topic, did you guys read Kamen Rider Spirits?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Not all of it.
Well,
some of it.
I'm behind on it now, but
Yeah, so like, even if they give an explanation, or like...
They do, but it's kind of a BS explanation. I don't buy it.
I liked it.
Okay.
yeah, and again, this is the opinion warning blaring. I tend to get kind of ticked off at blatant sexism, or at least what I see as blatant sexism at times too. Oh, thank you,
So, Sky Rider, another show I haven't seen all of yet, but I have seen the first episode, quite enjoyed it, even though, wow, was it dark.
Yep, and this was actually a Kamen Rider reboot, or it was pitched as one.
Yes, the show is actually just called Kamen Rider. Like,
Every time they decide to do that, they give up on it partway through and are like, nope, never mind. It actually does have all the other Kamen Riders in it.
I'm amused that he's the Kamen Rider that can fly, but he does less flying than he does crashing through walls on his bike.
break.
Oh yeah.
He's like Kamen Rider Kool-Aid Man.
Yeah.
But so this is very much a back to basics sort of thing where this is the main character is on a camping trip with his friends, and when he notices someone else being attacked and killed by monsters, he goes to investigate, comes back, and all of his friends are dead.
Yeah, even more than Back to Basics, Back to V3, it's pretty brutal. You watch him burying his friends in the first episode. It's like, oh.
And the evil organization is Neo Shocker, so I mean, again.
Well, like, if that's what, there's the one thing that bugs me about Skyrim, it's like, it's supposed to be a reboot, but Neo Shocker. New Shocker.
The first of many
There
Shocker
was never an
rebrands.
original one.
Yeah, well, obviously, partway through the show, they completely throw that out when he gets trained by all the other riders.
Yeah.
Not as well as Zacross was.
What?
Zacross's training is one of my
Zacross's
favorite
training is
things
the best training.
There are stupider Shocker rebrands since Space
Space
Shocker.
Shocker's
Yeah.
Yeah.
Speaking of space, here's Super One.
Shoot! Oh wait.
That's tomorrow night.
I'm sure it's not that bad.
This is Kung Fu
Oh.
in space, and warning, the this guy loves Forze because it is the epitome of happy and revitalizing
We'll
your
get into that
country.
tomorrow.
and-
Right, this guy.
Yay! Forrest is my
No.
favorite rider of all time.
And that is why you
Tomorrow,
fail.
we'll get into that tomorrow.
Yeah, that's
Tonight
what I said.
we're talking about this guy. He was the first space rider. He was turned into a cyborg as part of an astronaut program to be able to survive the harsh environment of space. But unfortunately, the space program gets killed off by the Dogma Kingdom. So he has to avenge everyone using his kung fu skills
And
his
tassels.
Yes.
tassels and swappable hands.
Yep, he
I
just
would
goes.
say this is the
away.
first time we've had the Kamen Rider take on his cyborgness and superpowers, both willingly and for a reason that's not just to fight the enemy.
Well, yeah, for the second one, definitely. For the first one, I mean,
It wasn't
Shido.
willingly?
No, it was willingly, but
Yeah.
Shido was willingly too.
Well,
That's
two
what I mean, I
things
said
about-
both.
Oh,
Because the other ones, even if they wanted it to fight the evil organization.
right, yeah.
Now, with
He just wants to.
With Super One, was it his belt the one that he like pulled the cord or whatever?
No,
and,
that's,
he, like,
that's,
That was X.
That's, yeah.
Oh. Well, not because I know X had the stick, but like
Yeah.
I'm just going off of.
No,
the,
I don't think he had full course.
Superman does like the Kamehameha pose.
Yeah.
And then he like twists his hands and then it all opens.
Yep.
Yeah, it's a stick that goes into a whip that goes into a sword. It can do
Yeah.
whatever it wants.
God damn it, X.
That's just amazing.
So let's talk about Z-Cross.
Kamen Rider
It's a great
Naruto.
TV series, except it was a movie.
But it felt like it was a TV series condensed.
Yeah.
They tried.
So this was the 10th rider in the franchise, and in order to celebrate, they made this one a straight TV movie. And it's basically, yet another case of hero gets turned into a cyborg by evil organization, breaks free of brainwashing, fights evil organization. But in this case,
He's a
all
ninja.
the other, well, yes, he's a ninja, despite the fact that they never really
Despite
addressed the
being
fact
bright orange.
And silver.
and they never really addressed the fact that he's a ninja, other than the fact that he has shuriken. That's about it.
Toei has problems with ninja. They
Yeah.
don't really understand what it means.
They don't need that high, really.
I think they just gave up with
Yeah,
Ninja.
the ninja
Fuck
are-
it. Just here.
The ninjas are embracing it with open arms.
Yes, they're lampooning it.
The best part of Zikros is that the other riders meet him and they're like, we need to teach you your heritage. And so they sit him down in front of a television and put a videotape in. And he gets to watch Kamen Rider.
Brad, you
They narrate it. Well, they're like, this is our origin story.
And they're
Because
all
Tom
there
hates
watching
everything.
it with
Well, it's just
Oh, right, no,
It's just,
it's V3, Rider Man, and two others I can't remember.
oh, right, Rider-Man mysteriously.
Oh.
yes.
Is this for the checking out? Because we've already got the checkout.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're all set.
We're good. Thank you. Sorry.
Do people care about spoilers for
A
40-year-old
little bit.
series?
It's like
40-year-old movie.
Yeah, just
Well, if I say the
Oh, for the
Yeah.
V3 spoiler.
Yeah, the
Does anybody
V3
care about V3 spoilers? Does
Yeah, I
anybody?
haven't seen it yet. So.
okay.
Okay,
Let's
we
say.
won't say it. We
I
won't
leave
say
the
it.
room for like 5 minutes to get a drink and walk back in. And that's,
No, it's cool.
It's
It's
okay.
cool. We won't say it.
Okay.
There's just some things that Toei never addresses.
It's
that
just
they
like,
should
oh,
probably address.
well, I mean, they addressed it in a comic. They
Yeah,
addressed it in
they
a comic.
yeah, but like
Here you go.
Yeah.
Oh,
So
love's
this
black.
was a big, bold new Kamen Rider series.
And it was
Again,
so good.
very different feel from the rest of the franchise. Another one where it started out as its own completely unique universe.
Black is its own all the way through.
Well, yeah, it was.
It was an RX that
Yeah,
did it.
okay.
Black is its own separate
Never,
little thing.
never mentioned that.
And my god, the special effects are amazing. Like,
Right?
The first, like the first few episodes, you definitely get a lot where it's movie quality special effects. For
It's
the
kind of
time.
sad how much better this looks at times than Kuga. It's
Now-
kind of sad.
with Black, wasn't it also a huge gap of time between Zed Plus
Yeah.
and Black?
I think it
this
was
one actually
close.
landed in the Ace era, right?
No, the next one.
Especially when
RX
RX was in Heisei, and then
Yes.
after RX, there were, in '86, there were no shows after that until.
Well, 89. It was 89.
Yeah,
Yeah.
89.
It was 89.
And then there were a few movies during the drive period.
But we'll talk about those in a minute.
Yeah.
So Black is fascinating. It's like this beautiful merger of some of the Showa storytelling feel with a bit more modern aesthetic and effects, and it takes a very dark edge to everything that is fascinating. Black is very atmospheric. The villains are these cultists that, like the previous slide said, are trying to pretty much turn the hero and his twin brother into some sort of evil god. So cults are bad kids.
Just like Nazis. Nazis and cults, they're very
Yeah.
bad.
And in this
Meanwhile,
case,
coming up with some of the dumbest plans I've ever heard.
You haven't watched all of the original Kamen Rider?
I've watched quite a bit of it. They made the water run backwards, like everywhere, and I'm just like,
But that was the tuna plot, right?
No,
Yeah.
the tuna plot is that they take all the tuna so nobody can buy it.
Yeah, but that's actually, when you think about Japanese economy, that's really
What?
I think
the tuna economy is a big thing.
I think Go-Go was worse than Shocker in terms of
Yeah.
stupid plots.
But this group is interesting because they were very much not human at all. A lot of them were driven by pre-human, or at least implied to be pre-human existences.
And it's really interesting, like, you get to see the kinds of people that join these evil organizations, like the kind of people they are in real life and how they transition into being in this evil organization and the kind of attitude they have towards it. Like, you get to see these people who are, you know,
A doctor.
big wigs in the real world, desperately trying to climb up the ranks in this evil organization so they can be transformed fully into cyborgs, so they can be worthy. And it's kind of scary stuff, and it's interesting because the first major villain of the series is the original Ultraman. Like, he's played by the guy who was the original Ultraman.
That's
That was
fantastic.
very surreal.
I guess work
Now-
right up.
Yes.
Well, you get a lot of
A lot of
crossover acting. Yeah.
Now with Black, was it that he was also a cyborg in this, or was it just that he had the Kingstone?
No, he was a cyborg. It was definitely an operation. Like, the Kingstone also is the source of his powers, but there's definitely there's an operation that happened to him in Nobuhiko at the beginning of the series
Yeah.
that permanently transformed them into something.
Happy birthday.
Yes.
Yeah, it's really interesting because it's very much magic science. It's not really distinguishable between the two, whether or not.
Amazon with
Yeah.
where it's magic and it's science and it's bad.
And very organic. Like, it's really interesting when Black Henshin's, you get to see him briefly in an instar stage or a partially transformed stage, where he is absolutely a terrifying organic grasshopper monster. And then you have the armor come on top of that, so you still have in the segments that muscly joint organic texture.
Remember they actually did name that form.
Yeah, I can't remember. What the
I will say to anyone who hasn't seen Black and wants to, seizure warning. Even if you are not prone to seizures, it will probably still hurt your eyes when he does his transformation and his punches and kicks.
Yeah, Rider Punch and
Lots
Rider
of
Kick
flashing.
are accompanied by rapid white screen, black screen flashing, unfortunately.
The best part is he makes his enemies implode, not explode.
Yes.
They're just explosion. Implodes.
I'm sure almost everyone knows this, but the reason the screen flashes on and off is that the black belt, when they made it, reacts to light. So they totally assumed that most people watching the show are going to be wearing the belt at the same time.
Oh yeah,
So the lights
right.
will turn on and off, and the belt.
I
will
think
start-
I've seen that belt at a comic store like once.
Yeah, the belt will start turning on. So if you go into a room, turn the lights on and off, and the belt will turn on. So the show flashing will turn the belt on, and it'll start doing the noise.
Yeah, they also had like an action figure that reacted to that.
Yeah. So it was a planned effect for almost the entire toy line to have. So when it's they imagine kids are going to be playing with the toys and wearing the belt when they watch the show.
Yeah.
But yeah, watch it in a well-lit room.
Yeah.
And if you're into behind-the-scenes stuff, especially with creature effects people, There's a man named Keita Amemiya, who is well known for things like Garo, as well as he did a bunch of the Space Sheriff stuff and a bunch of Super Sentai too. But this was his big start. First doing suit work, building the suits for Black, and then he ended up heading Black RX's suit building team.
Kamen Rider Black, as I said, is very atmospheric, and a couple of things really help lend to that. I mean, a lot of the colors are shot just darker, and you also have a lot of episodes that are kind of experimental and surreal in what's going on. And another thing that really lends to the atmosphere is that Kamen Rider Black himself, when he transforms, it's always fueled by some sort of righteous anger. There's usually something in the episode that happens that just outrages him, and his henshin even shows his fists like tightening that fuels his henshin, and that really...
He shudders with that rage, and it's impressive.
Yes, the pros of the show, again, wonderful lead actor, one of the greats, will now own a steakhouse in Japan.
He's in the new movie.
Yes, he is in the
He
new
is in the
movie.
new movie.
The villains are great. Most of them, except for one, are wonderfully evil and competent and scary. And then there's Bilgenia, but you know.
Don't most of their plans involve not taking over the world, but just trying to fuck with Kotaro?
Yes.
Yes.
Well, I mean, what they want is for him and Shadow Moon to fight it out,
Yeah.
and for one of them to become evil Jesus. I mean, that's what they want.
I think that's funny, just where the villains don't even have their own objective. We're like, let's just get that guy.
Well, their objective is not to take over the world. Their objective is to force one of these two individuals to become the vessel for their dark god, the Century King.
Yeah.
Though that being said, I can remember several times in which I heard members of Gorgum going, "Once we've executed our evil plan, we will have taken over Tokyo, and then once we've taken over Tokyo, the world will bow before us, because obviously Tokyo is that important."
It's a good, it's a good backup goal to have.
If you can't have evil space Jesus.
Then you just take over the world.
Or Tokyo, just
Or
Tokyo.
Tokyo,
Yeah.
that's
But
like the world, right?
The main problems I have with the show is sometimes the main plot can get kind of lost. Like it feels like there's a lot of filler in the show, and it sounds like a lot of that was one of the major actors who was really necessary for the climax of the show wasn't around for most of the time. So they kind of there's a lot of Kotaro saying, "I wonder where Nobuhiko is. I really hope I can find Nobuhiko." And then just
Still in a chrysalis.
completely dropping that plot thread for a while and then coming back to it and then dropping it.
Like, they'll show stock footage of him naked, curled up in a chrysalis. It's just like, Kotaro didn't need all that time. Why?
But yeah, so it's.
But then we got Shadow Moon, and all was well.
Well, yeah, exactly, because that was the climactic point of the series, but unfortunately they had to stall for a lot of time to get there. The ending, I think yes.
Oh, I'm sorry, we came late, so maybe this question was already asked.
Sure.
But, what did you guys think of the two Kamen Rider series that were brought over to America and made into Masked Rider and Kamen
We'll
Rider?
cover that in a little
Yeah.
while once we've gotten the chance to talk about them another one. But
I mean, it was RX.
it was
RX was
it
Masked Rider, or
also,
he was Dragon.
Shades,
They used RX. They used a little bit of Black, and they used J and
Zeto.
Zeto.
They use a lot of the suits. They use Shadow Moon, and he goes to a high school party or something, and it's the
That was-
stupidest thing.
Masked Rider was kind of a disaster.
It somehow lasted 40 episodes.
Yeah.
Well, it was the time.
Hey, VR Troopers lasted over 90.
Well, that's because
VR Troopers wasn't bad.
yeah. Well, it's based on TV licensing. Generally, you had to present this many episodes to be okayed, and frequently, even if it was cruddy or if there were problems, they wouldn't yoink it off the air unless toy sales were that bad, and that's very rare.
And I haven't seen Kamen Rider Dragon Knight, but I have
Oh,
a lot of respect.
God, it's
It's not
awful.
terrible.
It was
It's
kind of
better than
No.
Ryuki.
That is so debatable.
It's very slow to pick
That's
up,
not
but
setting
Yeah.
the bar
once the plot
very
kicks
high.
in,
That's
it's
not
way
all.
better than Ryuki.
I really
No.
appreciate Dragon Knight for being its own thing. It's not a remake of Ryuki, it is a completely different story, and but this is something for our Heisei era panel, which is coming up. But yeah, the Masked Rider,
They chose, it was, for Mask Rider, part of the problem was they chose movie suits to steal clips from, and then they, like Shadow Moon, he does a lot in the climax, but if you're gonna take something to...
And they shoved the pilot into a Power Rangers crossover.
yeah. And they had Doras, who's the main villain from Zeto.
Has a gorgeous design.
Yeah,
that
but
has,
you
like, 10 minutes
can't.
of screen time.
Yeah, and you can't have him fighting Black RX, who got turned into Kamen Rider, Masked Rider, directly because they weren't in the same film. Oops.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but I'm not sure if this is true, but apparently the reason we have such a disgusting black or red suit in almost all the Tysons is because Saban actually managed to lose the original black or red suit.
Ooh,
So when they were filming,
I don't know about that.
Actually,
I don't know about that.
I've only heard rumors. Like I don't 100% believe it, but I hear that's one of the reasons why the new suit looks so terrible. They couldn't build off the older one, Steve Austin.
Well, I don't think that should be the case because the suits are made from latex, and latex degrades very quickly. I mean, even the 90s Godzilla suits are in horrible disrepair, have to be constantly kept well.
Or the gill suit from Magito.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, no, like latex, it's biodegradable, and so you can't keep it. So, and also the way they do suits nowadays is very different from the way they did suits then, so.
Vinyl with the
So,
armor.
no, but, like, the thing is, they're trying to match the look of the leather suits still, which means that things can look kind of awkward.
So when he changed to Super Gold and Super Blue, they were showing footage from a different movie?
No,
Actually-
that stuff was all from the same thing. It's a lot of the villains that were from different
Yeah.
parts of the series, the franchise.
Yep.
That stuff, as you can see here, was all in,
Yep.
So these are all the forms for RX.
well, and black in the background.
And black in the background.
We did see a little bit of black in the first
We
episode.
did. So Black did so well that they made the next series into a sequel series, though it hadn't initially been planned. It was only partway through production, so they did a pretty good job of really trying to tie it in.
Unfortunately, it means they had to burn all bridges at the end of Kamen Rider Black, which gave Kamen Rider Black an unnecessarily dour
So
ending.
then they bring back some characters halfway through. RX is a lot more uneven than Black. Like Black hits its tone and keeps pretty consistent and is probably technically the better show. That being said, I enjoyed some parts of RX a lot.
There are some parts of RX that I think are better than anything in black. Like specifically the
5-part.
yeah, that 5-part epic where Joe the Haste first appears and all of that stuff. That is some of the best stuff in
Also,
Kamen Rider.
stuff
Period.
with people being sucked into the alternate universe was fascinating, but.
That was that
That-
Oh,
part.
right,
that
yeah,
part.
yeah, that was that.
Like RX is very wibbly to begin with.
The first few episodes are just a mess. How did we get from this scene to this scene? Because there's no.
But
No
when it
connection.
hits its stride, it does some really cool things.
It's
And
also much happier in tone,
It is, it's a lot lighter in tone. Whereas
except for the end.
they also kind of botched the ending, though. I'm pretty sure whoever wrote the ending didn't actually watch half the series.
Yeah.
Because there's some really important things that they kind of ignore. Like, you just killed some people, okay.
it's interesting.
Doomed an entire planet.
Rare
You
race.
did an entire race with some rebels that we were rooting for, okay.
RX has a very complicated relationship to Black, the series before it, but it does some very interesting things with playing with some of the same themes that were in Black and taking a different spin on them. Like in Black, in RX, family is very important. And I think it does a really good job with the main character's just character development arc from Black into RX, where in Black he loses a lot and he, goes through a lot of angst and is alone. And in RX he's kind of building up more of a family around him. And they do a lot with that. And the villains in RX are very good. The main villain set are very good.
Yeah, I'm not necessarily saying they're as competent as Golem or anything, but they're interesting and they have a lot of complex, fascinating relationships. This is the type of villain politicking that I expect out of Sentai.
Yep. And these villains are also quite a bit surreal because they're aliens, but that doesn't mean they're from outer space. They're from these parallel dimensions that are somewhat connected within one world, but at the same time kind of not. And
This
you'll
is the
get
Crisis
these,
Empire, right?
yeah, and you'll get these little splinter dimensions that are very surreal.
So both Black and RX are out there subbed, and they're both very good.
Yeah, the subs for Black are much better than RX, unfortunately.
Yes.
Also,
But
you
you
can
can
I thought we
figure out
only
what's
had
going
like
on.
HK subs for.
We've got like almost H, like they're good HK subs, so there's still HK subs. and good
Alright.
HK subs.
They're legible.
They're legible, you can understand them, you can get the plot, it's okay.
Oh, you got 5 minutes left.
Black RX is helped out by the fact that Toei had a budget. They have real helicopters.
They do have real helicopters.
Real
Again,
helicopters.
it's really sad to think about how many parts of these
Black
shows.
has not real helicopters?
No, Black has, what we're saying is Kuga doesn't have real helicopters.
Oh!
I'm going back to it's really amazing and sad how much better these shows look at points than Kuga.
I personally like RX's suit better than Black's.
Oh,
I
yeah.
have mixed
Because you
feelings. There are
fit.
times,
No.
there are things I like about RX more than Black. There
I
are things
love the
like-
helmet. Like it has the whole bug thing like down. I love it.
He can't turn his head.
Neither can Magnet States.
Neither could Batman.
Yeah,
I was
so-
gonna ask you.
Fix that.
Yeah.
Thursday is lame. You're an idiot.
Yeah, the motorcycle
In
is
that
sentient
order.
Yeah, Kamen Rider Black, his motorcycle is alive and grasshopper shaped, and his friend.
And so is the car.
Well, no, that's
No,
an
that's
RX.
an RX.
Yep, in
Iron.
RX, he's still, Battlehopper ends up,
Evolving into Acrobatter.
so he still has this adorable motorcycle, but then he feels the need to build a car, who is also intelligent and adorable.
Which we're getting a shift car of.
In things other than Blinks and Blues.
Yeah, they're announced the Legend Rider set.
And-
They're doing all single bikes and
And then they
car
did-
riders.
Well, I should hope so,
And
considering-
tricycle. Really?
Considering the fact that, Rideron, Trideron, I
Well, yeah, we gotta do that.
Yeah, that was.
Yeah.
Well, I think Battle.
If you watch a video where they hack
Oh,
the
no.
driver, you
We're
hear
going
the
to
Rider
go
sound.
over the movies now really quickly. They're still considered Showa era because
It's
Wibbly
before
Wobbly.
Kuga.
It's a complete injustice. Shin gets to be counted as a rider and Tackle doesn't.
She's adorable though. It is.
Look at his now.
It is
He
terrible.
looks like he's pouting.
He is pouting because he's sad because he never
He
got
exists.
people.
He's a
This
grasshopper.
was in the uber violent
You know
90s.
what was happening in his movie.
Shotaro Ishinomori does actually show up as a character in this movie
Oh,
now.
God.
So look for the shorter man with the enormous afro. That's him.
He's trying to be Stan Lee.
I think with the essay period, but it's still considered Showa, is that I read in an interview that Satoru Ishinomori, the last movie or the last thing he made, I think is Zeto, was that, Jay's the last show.
Jay's the last show that was made when he was alive. I don't know how much input he had on it, but it was the last thing that was made.
So, once they made Jay and Satoru Ishinomori died, they were making Tuda, so Tuda is considered the first of the Heisei because Tuda is the first show that he had no input on.
Yes.
So it was the first time they were going blind, going against possibly what he
It's a
does.
very
Also
good.
because it aired in 2000.
And also because it really revived the franchise. I mean, Black and Black RX were at the end of the 80s, and then the entire 90s, we had no Kamen Rider series on TV. We just had these movies. And then Kuga came in, low budget, last ditch effort to bring it back, and it was successful. So then they start counting the era.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then Audio.
Yeah.
Arito is amazing.
So Shin, I mean, it's got some themes. It's basically a
We've
one-off.
got 1 minute left.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, it's horrible, but it's Terabad in the funny way. Kamen Rider ZO, it
like
only
that.
45 minutes, as it was
You're
part
somewhat
of
worth
a
it for
film
Pathfinder.
festival. And this one was just gorgeous, very solid, and the only problem is it's so short.
Yeah,
Yes,
and
it's
Jay is
really
pretty
good.
much.
And Jay is very much similar to Zeto with very good, completely different. Problem with Zeto and Jay's, the riders look really similar, but
Because they were trying to bring it back as like
Yeah.
having
having Ichigo and
the
Neo.
writers.
Yeah.
And
But
that's all for today.
Yeah.
And yeah, so those movies exist, but the
They're
Rider
really
movie is
cool.
better than those two movies.